Hey there, welcome back to my channel, Book Demystified. I was sitting in my favorite coffee shop in Berkeley last week, watching this entrepreneur frantically typing away on his MacBook, probably working on his next big pitch deck, and it got me thinking about something profound. We're living in this incredible moment in history where the tools for building wealth, understanding technology, and transforming our lives are literally at our fingertips. But here's the thing, most of us are drowning in information while starving for wisdom. I've been diving deep into some of the most transformative books that every ambitious person should know about. And today, I want to take you on a journey through the minds of the greatest thinkers who've cracked the code on success, wealth, innovation, and human potential. We're going to explore how these ideas connect, how they build on each other, and most importantly, how you can apply them right here in California, whether you're in Silicon Valley, Los Angeles, or anywhere in between. Let's start with something that might surprise you. Ray Dalio, the founder of Bridgewater Associates, wrote this incredible book called Principles. And in it, he talks about how most people fail not because they lack intelligence or opportunity, but because they don't understand how to think systematically about problems. Now, Dalio built the world's largest hedge fund right here in the US, and he discovered something fascinating. The same principles that work in financial markets work in life. Think about it this way. When you're driving down the 101 in traffic, you don't just randomly change lanes, right? You have a system. You check your mirrors, you signal, you assess the situation. Dalio argues that we need to approach every area of our lives with that same systematic thinking. He calls it radical transparency, being brutally honest about what's working and what isn't. I remember reading about how Dalio would record all his meetings and encourage his employees to challenge him directly. Can you imagine that in most corporate environments? But here's what's brilliant about this. He understood that ego is the enemy of learning. And speaking of ego, Ryan Holiday wrote an entire book about this concept. Holiday's The Obstacle is the Way draws from ancient Stoic philosophy, but it's incredibly relevant for anyone trying to build something meaningful today. You know what he says? Every obstacle is an opportunity in disguise. Every setback is a setup for a comeback. This isn't just motivational fluff, it's a practical framework for resilience. Think about the entrepreneurs you admire. Take Elon Musk, for instance. When SpaceX's first 3 rockets failed, most people would have given up. But Musk saw each failure as data, as a stepping stone to success. That's pure Stoic thinking right there. The obstacle becomes the way forward. Now, let's talk about money, because, let's be honest, financial freedom is probably one of your biggest goals. Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad revolutionized how millions of people think about wealth. And it's especially relevant if you're living in California, where the cost of living can be absolutely crushing. Kiyosaki tells the story of growing up with 2 father figures, his biological father, who was highly educated but always struggled financially, and his best friend's father, who didn't finish high school but became one of the richest men in Hawaii. The difference? Their mindset about money. The poor dad believed in working hard for money, getting good grades, finding a secure job, and saving for retirement. The rich dad believed in making money work for you, understanding assets versus liabilities, and building systems that generate passive income. Here in California, where a decent house costs over $1 million in many areas, understanding this distinction isn't just helpful, it's essential for survival. But here's where it gets really interesting. Kiyosaki's ideas connect beautifully with what Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett have been teaching for decades. Munger, who lived right here in California, always emphasized the importance of mental models, different ways of thinking about problems that help you make better decisions. In Poor Charlie's Almanac, Munger explains how he collected mental models from various disciplines, psychology, physics, economics, biology, and used them to understand business and investing. He'd say things like, "To a man with a hammer, everything looks like a nail." The point is, if you only have one way of thinking about problems, you're going to miss opportunities and make costly mistakes. This connects directly to what Daniel Kahneman discovered in his research on behavioral economics. In Thinking Fast and Slow, Kahneman reveals how our brains are wired to make predictable errors. We have 2 systems of thinking, one fast and intuitive, one slow and deliberate. The fast system is great for survival, but terrible for complex decision-making. You know what this means for your career, your investments, your relationships? You need to slow down and think systematically. When someone pitches you a can't-miss investment opportunity, your fast brain might get excited, but your slow brain needs to ask, what are the risks? What am I not seeing? What would Charlie Munger think about this?
This is where Cal Newport's work becomes crucial. In Deep Work, Newport argues that in our hyper-connected world, the ability to focus deeply on cognitively demanding tasks is becoming increasingly rare and therefore increasingly valuable. He defines deep work as the ability to focus without distraction on a cognitively demanding task. Newport studied the habits of the most productive people across various fields and found that they all had one thing in common. They protected their deep work time religiously. They weren't constantly checking email or social media. They created barriers between themselves and distraction. Think about this in the context of Silicon Valley culture, where being always on is often seen as a badge of honor. Newport's research suggests that's actually counterproductive. The people who are truly moving the needle, who are creating real value, are the ones who can go deep. Now let's shift gears and talk about technology and innovation. Because if you're in California, you're right in the heart of the tech revolution. Peter Thiel's 0 to 1 is essential reading for understanding how breakthrough innovations actually happen. Thiel, who co-founded PayPal and was the first investor in Facebook, argues that true innovation doesn't come from incremental improvements going from 1 to n. It comes from creating something entirely new, going from 0 to 1. He calls this creating a monopoly. And before you think that sounds evil, hear him out. Thiel's definition of monopoly isn't about crushing competition through unfair practices. It's about creating something so unique and valuable that you have no direct competitors. Think about Google in search, Facebook in social networking, or Tesla in electric vehicles. These companies didn't just build better versions of existing products, they created entirely new categories. The key insight here is that competition is for losers. If you're in a perfectly competitive market, you're fighting for scraps. But if you can create something truly unique, something that solves a real problem in a way no one else can, you can build extraordinary wealth while making the world better. This connects to what Clayton Christensen discovered in his research on disruptive innovation. In The Innovator's Dilemma, Christensen explains why great companies fail. It's not because they're run by bad people or because they lack resources. It's because they're so focused on serving their existing customers that they miss the next wave of innovation. Think about how this played out in the smartphone industry. Nokia was the dominant player in mobile phones, but they were so focused on making better phones for their existing customers that they completely missed the shift to smartphones. Apple, coming from outside the industry, was able to reimagine what a phone could be. This is happening right now with artificial intelligence. The companies that dominate today might not be the ones that dominate tomorrow. The question is, where are the opportunities that the incumbents are missing? Speaking of AI, let's talk about what's really happening in this space. Stuart Russell's Human Compatible gives us a sobering look at the future of artificial intelligence. Russell, who's a professor at UC Berkeley, argues that we're approaching a moment where AI systems will become more capable than humans in virtually every domain. Now, this isn't science fiction, this is happening right now. We're seeing AI systems that can write code, create art, diagnose diseases, and even conduct scientific research. The question isn't whether this will happen, but how we can ensure it happens in a way that benefits humanity. Russell argues that we need to fundamentally rethink how we approach AI development. Instead of trying to create systems that maximize a specific objective, we need to create systems that are inherently aligned with human values and preferences. This is one of the most important challenges of our time. But here's what's exciting. This also represents an incredible opportunity. The people who understand how to work with AI, how to leverage its capabilities, while understanding its limitations, are going to have a massive advantage in the coming decades. This brings us to another crucial concept from the world of innovation, what Geoffrey Moore calls crossing the chasm. Moore's book explains why most new technologies fail to achieve mainstream adoption. There's a gap between early adopters who are willing to try anything new and the early majority who need proven solutions. Think about how this applies to AI right now. We're in that early adoption phase where the technology is powerful but still requires significant expertise to use effectively. The companies and individuals who can bridge this gap, who can make AI accessible and useful for mainstream users, are going to create enormous value. Now, let's talk about the mindset required to succeed in this rapidly changing world. Carol Dweck's research on mindset has revolutionized how we think about learning and achievement. Dweck discovered that people tend to have one of two mindsets: fixed or growth. People with a fixed mindset believe that their abilities are static. They think they're either smart or they're not, either talented or they're not. People with a growth mindset believe that abilities can be developed through dedication and hard work. They see challenges as opportunities to improve. The implications are profound. If you believe your intelligence is fixed, you'll avoid challenges that might make you look bad. You'll give up quickly when things get difficult. But if you believe you can grow and improve, you'll embrace challenges and persist through setbacks. This is especially important in California's competitive environment. Whether you're trying to break into tech, start a business, or advance in your career, you're going to face rejection and failure. The question is, will you see these as evidence that you're not good enough, or as opportunities to learn and grow? Angela Duckworth's research on grit complements Dweck's work perfectly. Duckworth studied high achievers across various fields and found that talent is overrated. What really matters is the combination of passion and perseverance toward long-term goals. Think about this in the context of building wealth. Most people want to get rich quick. They're looking for the next hot stock, the next cryptocurrency, the next get-rich-quick scheme. But the people who actually build lasting wealth understand that it's a marathon, not a sprint. Warren Buffett didn't become one of the world's richest people by making a few brilliant trades. He became wealthy by consistently applying sound principles over decades. He had the grit to stick with his strategy even when it was unpopular. This connects to what Benjamin Graham teaches in The Intelligent Investor. Graham, who was Buffett's mentor, argues that successful investing isn't about predicting the future or timing the market. It's about understanding the difference between price and value, having the discipline to stick to your principles, and being patient enough to let compound interest work its magic. Graham introduces the concept of Mr. Market, imagining the stock market as an emotionally unstable business partner who offers to buy your shares or sell you his shares every day. Sometimes he's optimistic and offers high prices. Sometimes he's pessimistic and offers low prices. The key is to take advantage of his mood swings rather than being influenced by them. This is especially relevant for anyone investing in today's volatile markets. Whether you're putting money into your 401k, buying individual stocks, or investing in cryptocurrency, you need to understand that markets are driven by emotion in the short term, but by value in the long term. Now, let's talk about something that might be even more important than financial wealth: your health and energy. In Why We Sleep, Matthew Walker reveals how sleep affects virtually every aspect of our physical and mental performance. Walker, who's a neuroscientist at UC Berkeley, argues that sleep is not a luxury, it's a biological necessity. Think about this in the context of California's hustle culture. We glorify working long hours, pulling all-nighters, and being constantly busy. But Walker's research shows that sleep deprivation undermines everything we're trying to achieve. It reduces our cognitive performance, weakens our immune system, and increases our risk of chronic diseases.
The most successful people understand that taking care of their health isn't selfish, it's strategic. You can't perform at your best if you're running on empty. This connects to what Jim Lohr and Tony Schwartz teach in The Power of Full Engagement. They argue that managing energy is more important than managing time. Think about your own experience. You've probably had days where you were technically working for 8 hours, but only accomplished a fraction of what you could do in 2 hours when you were fully energized and focused. The key is to work in cycles, periods of intense focus, followed by periods of recovery. This brings us to another crucial concept, the importance of habits. In Atomic Habits, James Clear explains how small changes can lead to remarkable results. Clear argues that we don't rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our systems. Think about someone who wants to get in shape. They might set a goal to lose 20 pounds, but if they don't change their daily habits around food and exercise, they'll never achieve that goal. The people who successfully transform their lives are the ones who focus on building better systems and habits.
Clear introduces the concept of habit stacking, linking new habits to existing ones. For example, if you want to start meditating, you might decide to meditate for 5 minutes after you brush your teeth in the morning. By linking the new habit to an existing one, you make it much more likely to stick. This is especially powerful for building wealth. Instead of trying to save money through willpower, you can automate your savings. Set up automatic transfers to your investment accounts. Use apps that round up your purchases and invest the spare change. Build systems that make good financial decisions automatic. Now, let's talk about something that's becoming increasingly important in our connected world: the ability to build and maintain relationships. In How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie provides timeless principles for human connection. Even though this book was written decades ago, it's more relevant than ever. Carnegie's core insight is that people are fundamentally interested in themselves. If you want to connect with someone, you need to show genuine interest in them, their goals, and their challenges. You need to listen more than you talk, ask questions, and find ways to help them achieve what they want. Think about how this applies to networking in Silicon Valley. Everyone's trying to pitch their idea, get funding, or land their dream job. But the people who are most successful are the ones who focus on building genuine relationships, who look for ways to help others first. This connects to what Robert Cialdini teaches in Influence. Cialdini identifies 6 principles of persuasion that are hardwired into human psychology. One of the most powerful is reciprocity. When someone does something for us, we feel obligated to return the favor. But here's the key. This only works if it's genuine. If you're just trying to manipulate people, they'll sense it and pull away. The most influential people are the ones who genuinely care about helping others succeed. This brings us to another crucial concept, the importance of developing what Daniel Goleman calls emotional intelligence. In a world where technical skills are becoming commoditized, the ability to understand and manage emotions, both your own and others, is becoming increasingly valuable. Think about the most successful leaders you know. They're not necessarily the smartest people in the room, but they have the ability to inspire and motivate others. They can read the room, adapt their communication style, and build trust with diverse groups of people. This is especially important in California's diverse environment. Whether you're working with engineers in Silicon Valley, artists in Los Angeles, or farmers in the Central Valley, you need to be able to connect with people from different backgrounds and perspectives. Now, let's talk about something that might be the most important skill of all: the ability to think clearly about the future. In Thinking in Bets, Annie Duke, a former professional poker player, explains how to make better decisions under uncertainty. Duke argues that most people think about decisions in terms of outcomes. If something worked out, it was a good decision. If it didn't, it was a bad decision. But this is backwards. A good decision is one that maximizes your expected value given the information you have at the time. Think about poker. You might make the mathematically correct play and still lose the hand. That doesn't mean you made a bad decision. Similarly, you might make a poor decision and get lucky. The key is to focus on the process, not just the outcome. This is incredibly relevant for entrepreneurship and investing. Most startups fail, but that doesn't mean it's a bad idea to start a company. The question is, given what you know about the market, your team, and your resources, what's the probability of success and what's the potential payoff? This connects to what Nassim Taleb explores in The Black Swan. Taleb argues that we live in a world shaped by rare, unpredictable events with massive consequences. Most of what we think we know about the future is wrong because we base our predictions on normal times, not exceptional ones. Think about your career. You might plan to work for a stable company for 30 years, but what if artificial intelligence eliminates your job? What if a pandemic changes how we work? The people who thrive are the ones who build anti-fragility into their lives. They position themselves to benefit from uncertainty rather than being destroyed by it. This brings us to another crucial concept, the importance of learning how to learn. In Peak, Anders Ericsson debunks the myth of natural talent and explains how anyone can develop world-class skills through what he calls deliberate practice. Ericsson's research shows that the people who achieve mastery in any field don't just practice more, they practice differently. They focus on their weaknesses, they get immediate feedback, and they constantly push themselves outside their comfort zone.
Think about how this applies to your own skill development. If you want to become a better programmer, you don't just write more code. You tackle increasingly difficult problems. You study how experts solve problems, and you constantly challenge yourself to improve. This is especially important in a rapidly changing world. The skills that make you valuable today might be obsolete tomorrow. The people who thrive are the ones who can continuously learn and adapt. Now let's talk about something that might be even more important than individual success: the ability to build great teams and organizations. In Good to Great, Jim Collins studied companies that made the leap from good performance to great performance and sustained it for at least 15 years. Collins found that great companies are built by what he calls Level 5 leaders, people who combine fierce resolve with personal humility. They're ambitious for their company, not for themselves. They give credit to others when things go well and take responsibility when things go wrong. Think about the most successful companies in California: Google, Apple, Facebook. They weren't built by lone geniuses. They were built by teams of talented people working together toward a common goal. The leaders of these companies understood that their job wasn't to be the smartest person in the room. It was to create an environment where smart people could do their best work. This connects to what Patrick Lencioni teaches in The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. Lencioni argues that most teams fail not because they lack talent or resources, but because they don't trust each other. They avoid conflict, they lack commitment, they avoid accountability, and they don't focus on results. Building a great team requires vulnerability, courage, and discipline. You need to create an environment where people feel safe to disagree, where good ideas can come from anywhere, and where everyone is committed to the team's success. As we wrap up this journey through these transformative ideas, I want you to think about how they all connect. Success isn't just about having the right strategy or the right skills. It's about developing the right mindset, building the right habits, and surrounding yourself with the right people. Whether you're trying to build wealth, advance in your career, start a business, or just live a more fulfilling life, the principles we've explored today can help you get there. But remember, knowledge without action is worthless. The question isn't whether these ideas make sense, it's whether you're willing to do the hard work of implementing them. You have access to more information and opportunity than any generation in history. The question is, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to let distractions and short-term thinking keep you from your goals? Or are you going to develop the focus, discipline, and long-term perspective that create real success? The choice is yours. But if you're willing to think systematically, act consistently, and persist through setbacks, there's never been a better time to build the life you want. The tools are there. The knowledge is there. The only question is, are you ready to use them? Thanks for joining me on this journey through some of the most important ideas of our time. If this resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. What's the one idea that you're going to start implementing today? And if you want to continue this conversation, make sure to subscribe because we're just getting started. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep building the future you want to see.